Plastic bag bans. One of these things that people went, yep, great. Again, the single use is gone. We've got them on the screen there here. What often happens with those thicker plastic bags that are on the screen right now is people use them often as a single use, so it's worse. Has this been another one that hasn't really been managed that well?
No, I'd actually say this one was a good one because, you know, we saw in South Australia they did it many years ago. And when we rolled this out, we actually talked about alternatives. So we talked about reuse alternatives. We didn't talk about other single-use alternatives. So the concept of actually saying, can you avoid it? Like, do you need this? And then going, what's a real alternative for a reuse system? I think we did that one really, really well. And I think that's kind of what's missing with the rollout of the single-use in Australia. If you compare it with overseas, it was actually not just plastic, it was any single-use item. And the conversation was had with the community at the same time, can you avoid it? Is there a reuse alternative? And we're not really seeing that with what's happening with the single-use bans. We're seeing more about who's got the best muscles to be the greenest in the States. And that's really confusing for both the public and really challenging for business.
Okay. I've seen some sort of positive uses of it. I just see quite a few of those thicker bags that are getting used singularly, but anyway, you can take that as maybe anecdotal evidence. What about, finally, I guess the other side of the equation, packaging? Anything from, I'm blown away by how much, you know, a delivery from IKEA or Kmart comes in. It seems to me on products, like sometimes fruit, biscuits, other things, the plastic's actually getting more, if anything. Things have an outside layer and then an inside layer. That companies do this because it makes the food maybe, you know, a tiny percent more durable, and there's no punishment otherwise. Is this a really untapped area within our products in the country?
Well, in theory, we've had a packaging covenant for 20 years that's been tackling these issues. And I think in fairness to the environment ministers this year, they recognised that it arguably wasn't going where it needed to. So they're currently looking at a regulatory scheme for packaging with far more, with mandated design features. So that is something that's currently under consultation. It needs to really be accelerated. We need to avoid the creation of this material where we can. You know, I will say, though, that plastics, when it comes to food waste, is really important because food waste and the carbon emissions are more problematic in many ways. But we really need to, as consumers, say, I don't want that packaging. I'm going to ask not to have it. But we absolutely do need better design standards when it comes to packaging and move to mandating those, which is what the environment ministers have foreshadowed.
All right, well, there has been some theoretical movement. I'm just waiting to see what actually happens. Gayle, Sloan, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me.